What's up guys, I got a brand new video for you today. Today we're looking at the hottest lens in the game, the Tamron 28-75 f2.8. And it came out almost a year ago and it's still back ordered. So if you're trying to get this lens, good luck. So I have been shooting with this lens on and off for the last 6 months, and I made kind of a real world comparison against the G Master 24-70. If you want to check that video out, put links in the description up above somewhere. But in that video, I just kind of go over the sharpness and autofocus without getting too scientific on these two lenses. All right, so getting into the specs of this lens, it is a full frame lens. It goes from f2.8 through the entire zoom range all the way up to f22. It has a 9 rounded blade aperture, and it's pretty light. It comes in at 1.2 pounds, and the front filter is actually 67 millimeters. And it does have weather resistance, but I wouldn't call it weather sealed. It does have a rubber gasket around the rear mount, and the lens construction is actually all plastic, but the rear mount is metal. So touching on the handling of this lens, it's actually super lightweight, and the lens barrel does extend, but not super far. And also mentioning the lens barrel here, it's actually backwards to most zoom lenses. So the lens zoom is actually the front ring and the focus is the rear ring. So that's backwards to like the G Master 24-70. So the size of this lens is actually not that big for a 24-70 equivalent lens. And I think that's because it actually doesn't go as wide as 24 millimeters, it's 28 millimeters, and that goes up to 75 millimeters. And one other cool feature about this lens is it's near macro. It actually can focus right up to 7.5 inches. Anyway, enough about this lens. Let's take a look at some image samples. So one major area we need to look at on this lens is autofocus, because when this lens first launched, there was actually some issues where the lens actually just became unresponsive and didn't focus at all. But since then, there's been firmware updates and the lens is actually performing really well. So when it comes to autofocus and face detection in video, I found that the Tamron did a really good job. It was actually really fast and snappy. And if you watched my previous video where I compared it against the G Master, it actually was way faster than the G Master. But when it came to eye detection in photos and doing high-speed continuous shooting, I actually found that it wasn't always that accurate and sometimes wouldn't even catch the eye. And this is very apparent in low light, where I found the G Master to do a better job. First off, if you're unsure about buying this lens, or if you should save up and buy the G Master 24-70 or adapt something like the Sigma 24-70, I would definitely consider this lens, because this lens is smaller, it's lighter, and it's way cheaper. The G Master is like 3 times the price, and if you watch my comparison video, you can tell that, you know, the output is very similar, except the G Master is a little bit sharper when it's wide open. That said, this lens is no slouch for a lens that's under $1,000. And especially a lens that would pair really well with something like the A7iii if you just got into full frame. This lens also works really well on APS-C cameras as well. When it comes to image quality, I did not do a corner sharpness test throughout the zoom range, but I did find this lens is really sharp at f2.8 through the entire zoom. And in most cases, you're gonna have your subject in the center anyway, so it doesn't really matter that much. Other aspects of this lens, again, it has a really close minimum focus distance of 7.5 inches, so you can kind of use this as something like a macro lens. And when it comes to bokeh, I actually found it looked really nice at 75 millimeters. So my only real cons about this lens is definitely just the inconsistent autofocus that I found, especially in low light. And a bunch of you guys in the comments are gonna say that it's really good, but like I said, this lens does have the newest firmware, and the A7iii is updated with the newest firmware. And I still find, compared to the G Master, that it does hunt quite a bit more. And one of the other things I wish it had was a AF/MF switch on the side to switch it into manual focus, but that's not a huge deal breaker. Again, this lens is pretty much back ordered everywhere. If you can find one, well, you're lucky. But yeah, if you're thinking about picking one of these up, I'll put links in the description where to find that. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you dislike this video, give it a thumbs down twice. Don't forget to hit that notification bell, and I'll see you guys in the next one.